If Democrats lose control of the White House, some experts say they should look no further than Black and Latino voters. The two groups have traditionally been Democratic strongholds. They still are, but in this election cycle, Donald Trump is polling better than any other Republican presidential nominee since the Civil Rights Act back in 1964. Consider this. In 2020, Joe Biden's support among Hispanic voters was at 63%. Right now, Kamala Harris is about 56%. Not a huge difference, but a difference. The numbers even more stark among Black voters. 92% supported President Biden compared to 78% Ms. Harris is receiving right now. Trump is not going to win that vote, of course, but he's doing better than other Republicans throughout history, modern history. So why is that? It's an interesting question. Joining me to answer it, some interesting friends of mine, Eyewitness News anchors Sandra Bookman and Joe Torres. Earlier today in your programs, Here and Now and Tiempo, you explored, as you usually do, some of the questions that I was just posing. So I'd like to start by starting with you. You guys used to give answers, I give questions, not look for answers, and now I'm looking for answers from you. The state of play of the presidential election, both in terms of Latinos and Blacks. Sandra, let's start with you.
Ladies first.
I think that Vice President Harris, she will likely win the Black vote overwhelmingly in this election. But Black voters, like Latino voters, like women voters, like male voters, it's not monolithic. You know, they don't all think the same way. I think what we're seeing is also a generational gap, because from my understanding, where you're seeing her not do as well is among younger Black men. From what I'm hearing talking to people, I don't see that huge divide. I think they're like a lot of people. There was a big shift in the middle of this vote from Biden to Harris. I think there are a lot of Black voters were, they were riding with Biden, as you say, and they felt like they needed to hear more about Kamala Harris.
But she's younger. She's younger, right? And these are younger people.
They are younger people, but she ain't that kind of young. I think she's closer to my age. Much younger than obviously Mr. Biden or Mr. Trump, but not 25 or just coming out of college.
All right, Joe?
From the Latino perspective, to substantiate some of the things that you were talking about with those numbers, Bill, polls, research, studies clearly indicate that the #1 issue among Latino voters is cost of living and inflation. And if you look at which of the two candidates might poll a little better economically oriented, they might think that Mr. Trump offers a better option in terms of that one issue. But Latinos can't be tied down to one particular issue, even if it's the one that's most important to them. Because in other areas, they tend to lean more Democratic if we're talking about the environment, climate change, reproductive rights. Those issues fall more in line with a Democratic perspective. And so it's really, from a Latino perspective, difficult to prognosticate which way they're going to go.
And let's look back not that far.
Sure.
8 years ago, when Mr. Trump was first running for office, and he came down the platform, the escalator, at his then house in Midtown, and he said what about Mexicans coming into this country? And how did Latinos feel about that?
And that's why in the realm of immigration, they don't necessarily agree perhaps with his approach. However, conversely, family values, conservative family values. When you look at the vast majority of Latinos who are coming from Central and South America, those are Catholic countries where family values play a big role, and that tends to lean more to a conservative perspective. All that points to the fact that it's very difficult to say which way they're going to pull a ballot come Election Day.
Let's talk about going back to the young Black men. A couple weeks ago, former President Obama said, had a real, this was like a sort of come to Jesus meeting, and he said, hey, you gotta go with the Black woman and step up. And he dealt with Black men, young Black men, and he got a lot of grief for it.
I mean, I think that, so many young people are protesting and marching because of the fight in the Middle East. They don't want to get dragged into that. They don't like America's role or America's perceived role in supporting Israel when it comes to what happens with the Palestinians. There's also a concern about young Black men in the police, and I think from talking to some youngsters, they don't feel as if that issue has gotten enough attention in this election. Now, I was reading something very interesting. One analyst was talking about the fact that Kamala Harris sort of, got dumped into the middle of the race. She had a short period of time
Very short,
to muster her resources and get her message out there and make people feel like they know her a little better. And she spent a large chunk of that time trying to focus on moderate, conservative-leaning voters, perhaps some of those independents and undecided who really didn't. She really felt like, I'm going to need their support to win this office, so I've got to go after them to get them. And in the time she had left, she didn't necessarily focus on those issues or point out the things about Trump's candidacy that would really appeal to some of those young black male voters.
I was so glad when this segment happened, because you got your fingers on the pulse of stuff, and I really appreciate you being here.
It's a pleasure being
Sandra
here.
Bookman.
Thanks, Bill.
Joe Torres.
Yes, good
Much
times.
love to both of you.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.